Hi Aries, welcome to a special Twin Flames reading for September and October 2019. I'm Raina. This spread I got from a website called emeraldlotus.ca, and it is a Twin Flames spread, so hopefully you know what a Twin Flames situation is or relationship is. I was reading for some of the other signs a couple of blurbs that I found on here to kind of illustrate that type of relationship, but I just don't feel like doing all of that. I want to cut to the chase. I had to start over again because I heard a weird noise. It turned out it was just my refrigerator. What was the other thing? Oh, the other thing I wanted to say is that this type of reading is not really time sensitive, which is why I am extending it through October. I just want to get more people to see it, you know, beyond the next month. I'm recording this on the last day of August. I can't believe it's the last day of August, but that's another story. Okay, and I'm going to tell you each position as I get to the cards. The first position is the card to represent our energy. So you and this other person. So we have the Four of Cups. And one of the things that this website was talking about, because I didn't really understand the concept of twin flames too much, but they were talking about, you know, having perhaps a lot of turmoil in the relationship. I think that's kind of risky though, because I have had people tell me that their relationship is a twin flames relationship, and I think it's a little bit too easy to kind of label any dysfunctional relationship as, oh, it's a twin flames situation, to try to excuse it and allow it to continue. So I'm going to defer to all of you if you really believe that you're in something like this. But I think even this website might have been, you know, sounding the alarm bells for confusing one with the other, because I was just reading about it. I thought it was on here. So make sure that it's not just a bad relationship. But this card, as the representation of your energy, makes me think of something where one person, it's like you might go back and forth, where one person is opening themselves up to the other person and then the other person closes down or shows disinterest. I think it was more than one person telling me that their twin flame was with somebody else. And I'm thinking to myself, that would be the end of my twin flame. If there was somebody else, then they're demoted from, I'm being facetious. I know that you can't demote a twin flame. But that seems to be a deal breaker for me. I just can't imagine. But these people have this on-again, off-again type of relationship. So if that's the dynamic with you and the other person, I don't know if it's something where maybe one person is more into it than the other, or if it alternates. That's what I was thinking, is that maybe one person is into the other person and then the other person's interested in somebody else, and then they switch roles. And again, this is something that may have a point, that it's happening to help you understand something about yourself and about others. Who knows? But I mean, the Four of Cups can indicate dissatisfaction, and so I'm sensing kind of some kind of restlessness. This card itself can be just like disinterest, disappointment, malaise, just a flat emotion for whatever reason. The second card represents what is your purpose together in this lifetime. Oh, by the way, I wanted to say that with this card, you know, thinking about the fact that you're Aries, I think that that's, you know, important too, because Aries people are really in love with the idea of passion in life. And if something seems boring, that's like the kiss of death for Aries. So maybe you're in a relationship where your twin flame is more grounded, or just matter of fact, something that makes you feel like it's not that interesting a situation, but there may be something in it to learn. Maybe you need to cool your jets. Maybe you're too, I think sometimes with Aries, it's wanting that novelty, that new situation, that falling in love, that rush of the infatuation cycle. You love starting new things, including new relationships. And yeah, you can stick around in a relationship if somebody kind of like interests you enough to keep you on your toes. And so maybe this type of relationship is too, it seems too like, I don't know, predictable. And so you've grown bored. Now, that just flies in the face of everything that I was saying about twin flames, but who knows? I mean, that might have a purpose. And speaking of purpose, the second card is what our purpose is together in this lifetime. Seven of Wands. This is a card of defending oneself and standing your ground. So, for some reason, I'm thinking of a Cancer person, maybe because the cups represent water energy. And Cancer is a cardinal sign, so that would square off with you and create a bit of friction. And the Seven of Wands is a defensive card to me, but defending your honor, defending your right to have certain feelings or to do things a certain way. And maybe in other lifetimes, you and the other person kind of like went along to get along, and you allowed the other person to walk all over you. Remember, twin flames is part of one whole, even though each person has their own soul. And so it's really a facet of yourself that you're trying to integrate. The third card is an important lesson we must learn in this lifetime. We have the Hangman. This is a card about surrender, as well as a card about sacrifice. And perhaps, you know, you're dealing with two people in this relationship who have a tendency to be selfish. And I'm not saying that in like a horrible way, but just to be overly concerned with your own self-interests and not really fully realize that the other person has the right to do as they will. And they also have their own set of opinions on things, and that you have to consider them in your actions if you're in a relationship with them. The other thing about this card is that it's a card of letting go and letting God. So not trying to impose your will on the universe or on the other person, but simply to allow things to kind of be. Let it be. And also, you know, when I talk about sacrifice, not just like caring about the other person, but also being willing to have patience. And that's part of what surrender is that you're not just trying to get your way all the time, that you're willing to realize when there's nothing you can do, you're not going to double down. You're just going to, you know, have that sense of acceptance. And that applies to the other person too, of course. How you can grow from this lesson. The Five of Cups is a card of mourning the loss of something. And, you know, from what I understand about these types of relationships, there can be, you know, what do you call it, like split ups. I'm thinking of another word, and then reunions. So it's, in other words, that you're not always together with this person. And that's part of when I see the Hangman, I think about that one person may have to wait for the other for whatever reason. If the other person is off with somebody else, if one person is refusing to be in the relationship, maybe they have their own reasons why, but being willing to accept that, even though there may be disappointment, there may be a sense of loss, but knowing that that doesn't make or break you. And I think this is so true for everybody who gets involved in relationships. Some people are so afraid of even really giving their heart to somebody because they're afraid that of abandonment and things like that. But once you stop fearing abandonment, you're gold, because you're not going to be somebody that you're not. You know, kowtow to somebody else's expectations. You're going to be your own person. You're going to be authentic. And when you show up authentically, I think you have a better chance of keeping a relationship. I think that a lot of relationships suffer from the fakeness of them. And it's funny because usually Aries, I don't tell this to, because usually you are very authentic. But it's possible that if you're dealing with a twin flame situation, maybe you have a lot of Pisces in you, which can kind of, or 12th house stuff, and that can kind of give you this karmic signature where you're working out a lot of stuff. But also just in general, it may be that, some Aries people aren't dealing with that. And if you are, you're very sensitive to that sense of like feeling that you're meant to be with somebody, but you're separated from them. And the Five of Cups is allowing yourself to grieve losses without, just jumping into the next thing as well. That's the other piece to this, because Aries is very forward looking. You're not the type of person to typically, sit and mourn the past, but sometimes you need to mourn. Maybe you're a little bit too, willing to just kind of move on to the next thing and not really feel those strong emotions. Okay, the fifth card is what our lives look like after completing this lesson. Wow, how cool is this? I always associate this with Aries, because this is like the beginning of a new journey. Something in my mind said the hero's journey, which I like thinking about. But yeah, it's like you have no more baggage. And actually, in that little blurb from the website, they were saying something like, usually the two people do not you know, they don't spend many lifetimes together and they come together before they're going to ascend, you know, like, so in their last lifetime on this earth. I don't know if I believe all of that, but I could see you and this other person having a whole new life together. You know, that is like, it's like you kind of rewrite everything that has existed, rewrite your history. And a lot of people who fall in love, they really feel like that. They feel like, you know, my life didn't exist until I met you. Even if they meet somebody at the age of 40, they feel like up until then, it didn't even matter. You know, it's kind of, you have to really have been in love to understand what that means, I guess. Something we can do to strengthen our bond. 6 of Pentacles. Give and take. The scales. Being able to receive is important. I think for Aries especially. Aries is a very generous sign. Now, of course, this card is connected to Pentacles. So, you know, you could say money and stuff. But obviously, we're going to broaden it to include any kind of mutual investment in the relationship in all forms. But just talking about money matters. Aries is a very generous sign, and generous people, one thing I've noticed is they sometimes are uncomfortable with receiving. They like to give, and they feel, or they kind of shy away from receiving. So it's important that you are able to do so, no matter how much money you make. And if somebody else, I'm talking about your partner, wants to give you something, material or otherwise, that you are willing to accept it graciously, gratefully, and graciously. And also, I would add that you are able to you know, invest in the relationship in a semi-equal way. I don't like this thing about equality because it's too easy to lapse into this kind of bookkeeping where you're going, okay, I gave you this, and now you got to do this for me. And that's so tacky. And that's not love to me at all. But we all know when somebody is into us. We all know that feeling. And there has to be, and I think I had touched upon this with one of the other cards. I think it was this one. Mutuality. It can't be just a one-sided relationship. And that's how you strengthen your bond. That's how you strengthen any bond in any type of romantic relationship. A way that we can heighten our vibration, and this is on the spiritual level, or energetic level. Ace of Swords. This is about cutting through the illusion and I would say honest communication, clear communication though too. So say what you mean and mean what you say. Aries people tend to do that. However, I would add for an Aries person who tends to be blunt, not to be so, you know, the unvarnished truth, as they call it, to be more sensitive without being convoluted to the other person, because we don't want to hit somebody over the head with truth. We want to communicate things in a very plain-spoken manner, but not with a lot of emotion behind it. Because fire signs, hey, I'm a Sagittarian, so I want you to know I'm not picking on you, Aries. But we fire signs tend to be very passionate. And we tend to use a lot of exclamation points, and we tend to raise our voices when we get riled up about something. And other people can be quite sensitive, especially if you are dealing with a water sign like a Cancer, if that's your twin flame. You may be called upon to be more sensitive, but at the same time still being truthful, but also seeing things as they are yourself. You have to perceive life as it really is. And I've noticed that there's, when I'm doing private readings, that there are people who are coming from a bit of distortion, and that's going to be with Neptune aspects. Even positive ones can lead to over-idealization, over-idealizing a partner, or distorting communication. And the swords are especially about thoughts and words, and the communication between two people. So keeping that line of communication open as well. Something my twin is mirroring for me. So they're acting like this. And this is to show you what you may be doing yourself. So they're acting out your own attitudes or what have you. The Judgment card. The Judgment card is connected to Pluto, if I'm not mistaken. And it really is about the chickens coming home to roost, or karma. And so cause and effect. So if you're dealing with somebody who's rather chaotic, it's a card of, by the way, it's also a card connected with rebirth and things like that. Maybe you're dealing with somebody who seems like they have, like they're a cat that has 9 lives. This person, has, an example would be if somebody is dealing with an addict, and maybe they're on again, off again with this person, and they realize that they can't control this person's behavior, but they still really feel drawn to them. And they see all of the, negative consequences of this person's bad decisions. Judgment could be bad judgment. And it's mirroring for you, because you're Aries and you're a sign that's associated with spontaneity, doing things on a whim, and how we have to have better discernment in life, that we can't just do things without thinking first, being too rash, for instance. So it's possible that you're dealing with somebody who's more of a risk taker than you are, and you see how they have suffered and how they create suffering, and you realize that you don't want to be like that. And perhaps that's the only thing I can think of. I'm sure there are other possibilities. And the last card is what you can do to help your twin reach their highest potential. We have the 9 of Swords. This is a card of anxiety. My feeling is that you may be dealing with somebody who has, maybe they come from a lot of trauma, and you want them to understand perhaps that they're acting this out in their poor choices, if that's something that you have noticed. Because we do have some cards here that suggest that there might be some kind of like even the first card. By the way, this first card could, to me, even be like a drinking problem, addiction of some sort, of depression, that person, somebody may be medicating in order to cope with life. And it's almost like trying to save somebody from themselves, and that you can't. So maybe you can help them to help themselves, to understand that when they are feeling anxious, that there's something else they can do. There's a better choice to make. And going back to the Ace of Swords, being honest about one's feelings, speaking in a way that lets people know how you're doing if you're not doing that well. I realize that, you know, these are very broad topics, which is one reason why I really like the tarot for these kinds of readings, because they offer a lot of leeway. And remember that all of you are different and you're all going through your own special set of circumstances. So hopefully at least some of these cards have brought up food for thought for you, Aries. If you'd like a personal reading, the link to my website is below. Take care. Bye.